So my name's Marcia, and it's my turn to be up here. Good morning.
Good morning.
And first, I got to tell you, I was having some fun. I was raised a Unitarian Universalist, and some of you have heard me say that more than once. And Garrison Keillor from Prairie Home Companion says that Unitarians go to the great wherever. Well, we'll find out. And I was thinking how amusing it is that I also had a friend in first semester in college. She wrote me this very serious letter because she noticed that I was different with different groups of people. And she said, why can't you just be yourself? You're such a chameleon. And I spent most of my life thinking, well, I'm just codependent, you know, I don't even know who I am, much less how to be her, right? And then I realized, no, wait a minute, that's an asset. I'm curious, and I love to find out about what makes people tick, what makes their hearts sing. So I've decided that I'm not messed up, you know, this is a good thing. But as a result of being interested in and honoring all paths, my next chuckle was that a person who honors all paths is a very, very, very busy person. I told you that for 2 years I had this interfaith calendar, and I'm looking at what everybody around the whole globe is doing in 8 different ways, and I thought, I just can't keep track. There's no way that I can possibly, speak to all of this. So I decided not to order that calendar this year. However, the beauty of growing up without a specific faith path is that my curiosity has lots and lots and lots of room. And I recognize, too, that, there's a saying, jack of all trades, master of none, and which, again, was meant to be derogatory. But why? I don't claim to be a master, but I love having the opportunity and the interest to look here and there, and to desire to appreciate a person or a path and to understand it better. So all of this led me to if you remember my background, I came from a place where we met every Sunday, and we had sort of standard holidays celebrated in the United States of America and a few others, and a lot of Buddhists popping up, but we had Sunday school, and we had Christmas and Easter, and we had choir, and we had all the trappings, but we just didn't really believe in anything in particular. And okay, I just love that. So now I don't remember what I was going to tell you. Okay. So begrudgingly, this population that I grew up in would crack open a dusty Bible on Christmas and Easter, and still people would grumble. And there were ministers in the Unitarian Universalist Church who got let go because they opened that book too often. So that's where I come from. The interesting thing is that out of all of that, out of my resistance, my curiosity has won over. And so I have found out about some of these ancient teachings through the back door. Like, well, I don't want to read the King James Version. I've got to look at the Aramaic translation by George Lamsa. I don't want to read the books that everybody knows about. I have to go talk to Elaine Pagels about the Gospel of Thomas that got thrown out, And so I'll do it my way. I could sing that song easily. So having done it my way, the joke's on me because my curiosity keeps growing, and I have these books that I've lugged around, and a couple of them are The Hidden Mystery of the Bible by Jack Addington, which is really awesome, and another one by Thomas Troward that stays mostly closed because he's, I'll get to that. And then there's the Unity Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. So this time last year I started digging, and this year I dug some more. And what I found out was another thing. I'm proving all of these things true. Sort of the moral of this first story is that reverse psychology works just like your mother said it would. So I swore I wasn't going to try to understand Passover, that I was going to just, I him know what I was just going to talk about freedom. And I was going to talk to you about Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I was going to talk to you about Ernest Holmes, and I was going to just talk to you about freedom in a very general metaphysical sense. But what happened was, again, my curiosity won out. So the funny thing is, this is why I think the cosmic joke is on me. Because as I am, of course, lovingly given the freedom to discover on my own, and given this inherent curiosity, Spirit's plan is working perfectly. And I have a feeling that maybe this thing called the atonement or whatever we call it is going to be this moment when we're all just laughing hysterically because we realize we're all the same. And wasn't that fun? Right? So, obviously, some metaphysical explorations into the meaning of Passover got front billing after all. Our mission here at Centers for Spiritual Living worldwide is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence, to empower individuals through teaching the creative power of thought, and to co-create a world that works for everyone. So this story of Exodus is really in that mission, or you could say that our mission fits very well within that story. So here are some vocabulary terms which are common to both. We have Exodus. Obviously, that's the title of a story about an exit. We have the desert, the place that was left. We have Egypt, which is the name and the nature of this place. We have Pharaoh, who was the leader of that place. We have Moses, who led the slaves to freedom. We have the Red Sea, which parted. We have the people whom were freed. We have the children of Israel, that's who they became. We have Joshua, who took the children of Israel into the promised land. And if I got any of that in the wrong order, I'll tell you right now, I'm sorry. So, let's just say, by the way, that everybody had a tent. Okay? Everybody's got a tent. So you got your little, tent on your back. So the beauty of metaphysical study, of metaphor and allegory, is that no one gets hurt. The opposite of that, the polar opposite of that, is taking everything literally. That's when you have a fundamentalist with a weapon who harms. The beauty of metaphysical, allegorical exploration is that it is unifying. It melts, it dissolves all boundaries. It sees beyond them, it sees commonality. And it teaches and liberates all of us. So to start with, Exodus means, now I want to tell you that with this first exception, this first one comes from Charles Fillmore's Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. The rest of them are going to be from The Hidden Mystery of the Bible by Jack Addington. Anyone afterwards who wants to know those again, I'd be happy to tell you. So to start with, here's a metaphysical definition of the term Exodus. It means the deliverance of man's highest religious and spiritual thoughts from obscurity, from darkness and ignorance, and from the Egyptian consciousness. So Egyptian consciousness, which I've taken from the other book, is one of bondage of materiality, of negation, a false sense of bondage. Now we teach about that all the time because we're constantly telling people that it is done unto you as you believe. So false sense of bondage, what would that be? Right here and now, it would be, I can't have that job. I can't go to that thing. I was just talking to Alyssa before celebration. We both recently won a scholarship to something that we thought we couldn't go to, but really wanted to be at. There are things like that. The original thought is, I can't do that. So that's an Egyptian thought. That is a thought that is anchored in an idea of bondage. Pharaoh refers to dominion through mental power, the self-assumed light of intellect that keeps its thought followers in bondage to materiality. Now, once again, if this is taken literally, you're going to think stuff is bad, not having any stuff makes me good, and you're going to have a pretty slender experience. So, beyond that is this idea that if you rely entirely on the intellect, without the other half of the equation, it's going to be a lonely place. It's going to be hard work. you're going to be a slave to them. Okay? So Pharaoh's not bad, but Pharaoh without the rest of the equation might be. If you open up these other resources and look at more of the writings about that concept, it is represented by the solar plexus. It is a place where heaven translates to earth. It is where the ideas of the mind become material. And there is a transformation that takes place with Pharaoh, really. So then we have Moses. Moses, the truth drawn out of mind. The consciousness that draws our spiritual thoughts out of bondage to materiality. The truth that leads us out of bondage. And capital M mind, capital T truth is what we're talking about. When we access that which is the highest truth of all that is, as us, for us, all around us, the real deal, we are liberated from that lower thinking which binds us. The Red Sea represents race consciousness, the psychic sea of doubt. And by the way, what race consciousness means is the common belief, that which the world accepts but is not necessarily true. It is often made up of false beliefs. Would that perhaps be the trends of belief in our culture? It might be that all of the other kids on the schoolyard think you can't do that thing, and you're like, I know I can, I know I can, I know I can. And your opportunity is to say, you know what? Even though they're going to think I'm weird, I'm going to listen to me and not to them, and I'm going to go for it. Now, many of us didn't when we were small, but we have another chance because we're still here. So why not? Why not relive those schoolyard days and give yourself a chance? The people symbolize thought people. I love this one. The enemies are all those of our own household, our own thoughts. Think about it. Oh my goodness. I'm still practicing. And I have a lot of those people running around in my head who are just yammering away about stuff that is irrelevant and untrue. Yada, 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 yada. Right? We sometimes call it the monkey mind. So there are people of our own household that are undermining our freedom. And they can be transformed. See, nobody has to die. This is about transformation. The children of Israel denote the awareness of the sonship within all of us. The children of God, God consciousness or spiritual thoughts that are led out of mental bondage. So when we recognize that we are sons and daughters of the all that is, of the I am principle, of the capital T truth, that we're one, that our minds are one with divine mind, then we have the opportunity to recognize who we truly are, and in so doing, we are liberated from experiencing a lesser life. Joshua signifies the same. Now, this is a metaphysical Bible dictionary that is taught by someone teaching metaphysical Christianity. So it signifies the same meaning as Jesus. Jehovah saves. Salvation through the Christ consciousness. Joshua, the Christ in man, took the children of Israel into the promised land. I am, of course. We have the privilege, I talk about this all the time. You can go rent a DVD called The Moses Code and watch it for yourself. I am means God's name in man, the metaphysical name of the spiritual self. Isn't that nice? The metaphysical name of the spiritual self. So when we know this is what really delivers us to the promised land. And what would that be? I'll tell you. The promised land denotes the state of mind, because everything begins in mind, logos, representing divine fulfillment. To live in the promised land would be to live entirely by grace, trusting God for every need. That's what we're aiming for, right? We're still taking our prosperity classes saying, I know this is true. I know this is true. I just have to practice it. I just have to have an accountability buddy. I just have to keep trying. I need a prayer partner. I need to sit and talk about this stuff with somebody. I'm going to experiment with it for 10 weeks while I take this class. And then stuff from Malachi, that says, prove me now herewith that I will not pour down a blessing upon you that is so great the windows of heaven cannot contain it. Wow. Okay. How about that? I want one of those, some of those. And we realize, I'll talk more about that in a moment, that our transformation really is, it's our own perception. It always has been, and it always will be. So here are some other meanings about land in this story. Land means consciousness unfolding at different levels, various stages of awareness within the individual. Lowlands, highlands, fertile lands, wastelands, etc. They all refer to states of consciousness. Canaan is the lowland, the material existence, the subconscious mind, which is later redeemed as the promised land. It is transformed. So we don't say, oh, I got to get away from that, I got to bury it, I got to divorce myself from it, I got to pay to have somebody clean it out. This is about a personal transformation so that the low becomes high. So as promised, I said that everybody has a tent. I love the definition of tent. It signifies a temporary dwelling place, a temporary state of mind which can be changed or expanded. Transitional thinking. To enlarge the place of thy tent is to expand one's limited thinking. Isn't that great? Just get a bigger tent. Just go get a bigger tent. You're going to keep moving it because you're growing and you're evolving, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. So can you see why this is our story? Why this is your story and my story? You can, can't you? So, here are some translations of all of that as to what it might mean for us as our story. To be delivered from the bondage of false beliefs and not to be a slave to the intellect operating in separation from higher consciousness. To be led out of bondage by the truth of mind which is available to us all. To part the seas of commonly held false beliefs and walk right across them. You think about that? Because you can turn on the radio or the television or flip open a magazine or just try to get through the checkout line downstairs and I know that they know that I'm only going to look at that front cover. So there's this bombardment of rumor and hearsay and crazy stuff there. There's every opportunity to say, yup, the world is terrible. We have no choices. We're stuck. It's awful. And the best thing you can do is self-medicate and hope for the end to come soon. So go back and buy something else that tastes good, that'll make you feel great for a minute and a half. And then it goes on and on. They know. By the way, as far as conspiracy theories go, they hold no weight unless you think they do. So, we forgive them, whatever they're doing. Focus on ourselves. By recognizing and transforming the enemy thoughts of our own households and clearing the way for our realization of God consciousness as children of God, recognizing that whatever name we give it, it's in every one of us, who and what we truly are, and that is our Savior, our salvation, that it will deliver us to a state of consciousness and corresponding experience in which all of our needs are met, we are fulfilled, we can trust that, and go from there. That sounds pretty good. To say that our lowland has been transformed into a highland through the elevation of our own consciousness, all by enlarging our thinking. It's your tent. I love that. Okay, so Ernest Holmes tells us the same thing. Ernest Holmes tells us that we have this thing called the law of cause and effect, and it's been popularized mostly as the law of attraction in the past few years. This idea that you think it, and you just keep thinking it, and you start imagining it, and you picture it, and you feel it. You know, like the guy in The Secret who wants a new car. Well, he's doing it this way. I can't remember, but anyway, it's obviously a right-hand drive, and he's British, and I got confused. But he's got his rocker recliner, remember? He's making those funny sounds, and he's got and then he turns around with his remote and goes, you know, to pretend to lock his car, and it's really his chair. That's what we do. That is really working. That's engaging all of the senses with the law of cause and effect, which we most lovingly refer to as the law of attraction. So the underbelly of that, the shadow side of that, is that because it is done unto us as we believe, if we believe in everything we see and hear out there, if we believe in everything that people say to us when we bump into them on the street, we can end up back in that place of being a slave to the intellect, of believing that we're separate from our good, that it's out there somewhere, and we might find it and we might not, and if we do, it'll be temporary, then it'll wear off and we'll be right back where we started, and all kinds of awful stuff. But when we enlarge our thinking and enlarge our consciousness, we then have the opportunity to recognize, oh my goodness, I really am in a field of infinite possibility. I thought Deepak was just saying that. By the way, if you want to have some more fun, we just watched a video last week done by Deepak Chopra's son called Decoding Deepak. And it was a lot of fun, because even when he was going to be ordained as a Buddhist monk, he's like, do I have to give up my BlackBerry? Can I just get a cup of coffee? I want to take my grandson to Starbucks. And I'm like, yes. Anyway, that was fun. So the truth is, it is done unto us as we believe. That's the core principle, the Christian root of this science of mind and spirit that we don't always talk about. It is also the core of this whole teaching about the law of attraction, which, by the way, was really popular back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and we just brought it back again, because it takes us a while to really get stuff. We're evolving. The truth of the matter is that when we recognize how it operates, we are no longer slaves to that principle. That principle becomes our servant. It always has been, but in our ignorance, we were slaves to it. We didn't know that we were thinking, and we were feeling, and stuff was showing up, one thing after another, because that's just how it works. So when you get a bigger tent, when you go down to Bass Pro Shops or whatever, you want to order it online, when you get a bigger tent and you expand your thinking and you recognize how the law of cause and effect works. I think, feeling follows thought, that kicks the creative process in motion, stuff starts to coalesce around the pattern I have created, and boom, unless it's interrupted, it shows up as real life in my body and in my affairs. That's it. That's how it works. If you don't know that, life is happening to you. When you know that, life is happening through you. So knowing that is your exodus. Knowing that is your arrival in the promised land. Knowing that is your awareness of being a child of Israel. Knowing that is your awakening and your empowerment. And we're in an extraordinary time. I believe that this knowing is going to stick this time. And I have enjoyed a tremendous couple of weeks of the realization that I'm not a late bloomer. I said this last week. I'm right on time. Is there something wrong with me because I'm just getting what I'm getting at this age and I didn't get it, 10 years ago or 20 years ago or when I was in third grade and things went terribly wrong? And, is it right on time? Is it all perfect? Is every experience really, truly more than a platitude? Really perfect? I think it is. So I invite you to recognize that this is your story. I invite you to recognize that sometimes you will be invited. No, often you will be invited. And sometimes you'll say yes to the invitation. To be in that land of slavery, of limitation, of bondage. But freedom is always there. And you can part the Red Sea of the collective unconscious. You don't have to be subject to what everyone else is worrying about and calling the truth. Because the truth is within you. And your mind is already one with the one mind. Your Moses is in here. Your Christ consciousness is in here. And if you just listen to that still, small voice, it will get louder once you tune in. And then you'll know, and you'll know that you know. And you'll be delivered. And you'll meet all of your other friends along the way. And we were just talking earlier about the possibility of going back and forth in that process a little till you realize, oh, I don't have to. But it's okay in the meantime if you do. So, from a Unitarian Universalist metaphysician, happy Passover. Thank you.